Marcus Wellington stood on the wraparound porch of his newly acquired farmhouse, a steaming cup of coffee in his hand. The morning sun cast golden rays across the endless fields of his Virginia estate. At 42, he had everything money could buy. 3 luxury cars sat in the garage, a penthouse in Manhattan, and now this sprawling farm that stretched as far as the eye could see. Yet something felt hollow inside him, like an echo in an empty room. He had bought this farm on impulse 3 months ago. His therapist suggested he needed to reconnect with simpler things, to find peace away from the chaos of boardrooms and business deals. Marcus had laughed at first. Him, a billionaire tech mogul, playing farmer? But the idea grew on him. Maybe working with the land would fill the void that no amount of money seemed to touch. The property manager had assured him the farm came with a small staff. A few workers to maintain the crops and livestock. Marcus barely paid attention to those details. He signed the papers and flew back to New York, letting his assistant handle everything else. Today was his first real visit to inspect the property and meet the people who kept it running. He walked down the porch steps, his expensive boots crunching on the gravel driveway. The air smelled clean like rain and fresh earth. Birds sang in the trees that lined the property. It was peaceful, he had to admit. So different from the honking horns and rushing crowds of the city. A red barn stood about 100 yards away. Marcus could see movement near it. Probably the workers starting their morning tasks. He decided to introduce himself, to let them know he was not some absent owner who would never show his face. He wanted to be involved, at least somewhat. As he approached the barn, he heard laughter. Children's laughter. High-pitched giggles that made him smile despite himself. The sound was pure joy, untainted by worry or stress. When was the last time he had laughed like that? He could not remember. Marcus rounded the corner of the barn and stopped dead in his tracks. His coffee cup slipped from his fingers, crashing to the ground and splattering brown liquid across his boots. But he did not notice. He could not look away from the scene before him. A woman stood near the chicken coop, tossing feed to the birds. 3 children danced around her, laughing and chasing the chickens. The woman wore simple jeans and a flannel shirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked up at the sound of his cup breaking. Their eyes met. Marcus felt the world tilt sideways. His breath caught in his throat. It could not be. After all these years, after everything that happened, it could not possibly be her. But it was. Vanessa, his ex-wife. The woman he had divorced 8 years ago in the messiest, most painful split of his life. The woman he had not seen or spoken to since that awful day in court. The woman he still thought about late at night when he could not sleep. She looked different. Older, but in a good way. Her face had lost the sharp, stressed look she wore during their marriage. She seemed softer somehow, more at peace. More beautiful than he remembered, if that was even possible. But that was not what made his heart slam against his ribs. It was the children. 3 of them. 2 boys and a girl. The girl looked about 7, with dark curly hair and warm brown skin. 1 boy appeared 6, tall for his age with a serious expression. The youngest boy, maybe 5, had the brightest smile Marcus had ever seen, and all 3 of them looked exactly like him, the same dark eyes. The same shape of face, the same dimple in the left cheek when they smiled. The oldest boy even had the same slight gap between his front teeth that Marcus had before he got braces as a teenager. Marcus's mind spun. The math was simple and brutal. He and Vanessa divorced 8 years ago. These children were younger than that. Much younger, which meant no, it was not possible. Vanessa would have told him. She would have said something. Anything. They might have hated each other by the end, but she would not have hidden something like this from him. Would she? He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. His throat felt tight. His hands trembled. Vanessa's face had gone pale. She stood frozen, one hand still holding the bucket of chicken feed. Her eyes were wide with shock, maybe fear. The children noticed the tension and moved closer to her, suddenly quiet. Marcus tried again to speak. Vanessa? His voice came out rough, barely more than a whisper. She swallowed hard. For a long moment, she said nothing. The children watched him with curious eyes. The youngest boy tilted his head, studying Marcus the way children do when they see someone new. Finally, Vanessa found her voice. Marcus, I did not know you would be here today. I own this farm, he said, though the words felt strange in his mouth. Nothing felt real. This had to be a dream. A nightmare, something. I know. Her voice was quiet. I work here. I have for 2 months. You work here? Marcus repeated stupidly. His brilliant mind, the one that had built a tech empire, seemed unable to process basic information. On my farm? I did not know it was yours when I applied. Vanessa shifted the bucket to her other hand. The property manager hired me. I needed the job. I'm good with animals and farming. I grew up on a farm in North Carolina, remember? He did remember. That had been one of the things he loved about her back when they first met. She was real, grounded. Nothing like the fake people who surrounded him in his business world. She knew how to fix a tractor and bake bread from scratch. She could name every star in the summer sky. But right now he could not think about any of that. He could only stare at the 3 children who had inherited his face. Who? He pointed at them, unable to finish the question. Vanessa's jaw tightened. She put down the bucket and placed her hands on the shoulders of the 2 children nearest to her. The protective gesture was clear. These are my children, she said firmly. This is Zoe. She touched the girl's shoulder. This is Caleb, the older boy. And this is Jordan. The youngest, who still smiled at Marcus with innocent curiosity. Your children, Marcus repeated. The words felt like stones in his mouth. Just yours? The silence stretched between them like a canyon. One of the chickens clucked loudly, breaking the spell. The children shifted restlessly, sensing something wrong but not understanding what. Vanessa took a deep breath. When she spoke again, her voice was stronger. We should not do this here. Not in front of them, she was right. Whatever conversation they needed to have, it should not happen with 3 young children watching. Marcus nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Come by the cottage after lunch, Vanessa said. The blue one near the creek. The kids will be at their lessons with Mrs. Patterson. She paused. We need to talk. Marcus could only nod again. His mind was racing, 1,000 questions fighting to get out at once. But Vanessa was already turning away, gathering the children like a mother hen protecting her chicks. Come on, babies, she said gently. Let's go check on the goats. The children followed her, but the oldest boy, Caleb, glanced back at Marcus. His dark eyes were thoughtful, assessing. Then he turned and ran after his mother and siblings. Marcus stood alone in the barnyard, coffee soaking into his expensive boots, his whole world crashing down around him. He had come to this farm looking for peace, for simplicity, for something to fill the empty spaces in his life. Instead, he had found something far more complicated than any business deal he had ever negotiated. He had found 3 children who looked just like him, and he had found Vanessa, the only woman he had ever truly loved, the woman whose heart he had broken when he chose his company over their marriage. The morning sun suddenly felt too bright, the peaceful farm sounds too loud. Marcus turned and walked back toward the house on unsteady legs, his mind spinning with questions that only Vanessa could answer. But deep in his gut, he already knew the truth. Those children were his. They had to be. The resemblance was too strong to be coincidence, which meant for 8 years he had been a father without knowing it. For 8 years, Vanessa had raised their children alone. For 8 years, she had kept this secret. But why? Marcus climbed the porch steps and sank into one of the rocking chairs. He put his head in his hands. His perfect, controlled life had just exploded into a million pieces, and he had no idea how to put them back together. The hours until lunchtime crawled by like years. Marcus tried to distract himself by inspecting the farm, walking through the fields, checking the equipment in the storage shed, but his mind kept returning to those 3 faces, those 3 children who had his eyes, his smile, his features stamped clearly on their innocent faces. He pulled out his phone a dozen times, thinking he would call his lawyer, his assistant, someone who could help him make sense of this chaos. But what would he say? He had just discovered he might be a father? That the ex-wife he had not seen in 8 years was living on his property with children who looked exactly like him? It sounded insane even in his own head. By noon, Marcus found himself pacing in the farmhouse kitchen, unable to eat despite not having breakfast. His stomach was tied in knots. Every minute felt like an hour. Every sound made him jump, thinking it might be Vanessa coming to explain everything ahead of schedule. Finally, at 1 o'clock, he walked down the dirt path toward the creek. The blue cottage came into view, small but charming, with flower boxes in the windows and a tiny porch. Smoke curled from the chimney. It looked like a home warm and lived in. So different from his cold penthouse with its modern art and designer furniture. Marcus stood at the bottom of the porch steps for a full minute before finding the courage to knock. His hand trembled as he raised it to the door. Vanessa opened it before he could knock. She must have been watching for him. She had changed into a clean shirt and let her hair down. It fell in soft waves around her shoulders, the way he remembered from their early days together. "Come in," she said quietly, stepping aside. The cottage was small but cozy. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace. Simple furniture, nothing fancy, but everything looked comfortable and clean. Children's drawings covered one wall, held up with colorful magnets. Toys were neatly organized in bins along another wall. It smelled like cinnamon and coffee. Marcus stood awkwardly in the middle of the living room, not sure where to sit or what to do with his hands. He felt completely out of place, like a giant invading a dollhouse. "Sit," Vanessa said, gesturing to the couch. She took the armchair across from him, putting distance between them. Smart. If she had sat next to him, he was not sure what he would have done. Shouted, cried, grabbed her and demanded answers. The silence stretched between them. Marcus studied her face, looking for the woman he had married 10 years ago. She was still there, underneath the changes time had carved. But she seemed stronger now, more sure of herself. During their marriage, she had always seemed uncertain, trying to fit into his world of wealth and status. Now she looked comfortable in her own skin. "They're mine, aren't they?" Marcus finally asked. His voice came out hoarse. Vanessa did not look away. She met his gaze head on. Yes, that one word hit him like a physical blow. Even though he had known, had seen the proof in their faces, hearing her confirm it made it real in a way nothing else could. "All three?" he asked. "All three." Marcus leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands gripping his hair. "How? When? Why did you never tell me?" Vanessa took a deep breath. When she spoke, her voice was calm but firm. "I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after our divorce was finalized." "With triplets?" "Triplets?" Marcus's head snapped up. "But they're different ages. They don't look like triplets." "They're Irish triplets," Vanessa explained. 3 pregnancies in 3 years. Zoe first, then Caleb 11 months later, then Jordan 10 months after that. Marcus did the math. "So you were pregnant when we divorced?" "With Zoe?" "I did not know yet." Vanessa's hands twisted in her lap. "I thought I was just stressed. The divorce was so ugly, Marcus. So painful. I had missed my period, but I thought it was from the stress. Then 2 weeks after everything was final, I took a test. Positive. The memory of their divorce flooded back. The screaming matches. The lawyers. The cruel things they had both said. Marcus had been building his company, working 80-hour weeks, missing dinners and anniversaries. Vanessa had begged him to slow down, to choose her over the business just once. He had refused. His company was his dream, and he would not give it up for anyone, so she had left him. Or he had left her. By the end, it was hard to tell who left whom. They had both been so angry, so hurt. "Why didn't you call me?" Marcus demanded. "I had a right to know." "A right?" Vanessa's calm cracked, showing the anger beneath. "You gave up your rights when you chose your company over our marriage. When you missed our anniversary because of a board meeting. When you forgot my birthday 3 years in a row. When you looked me in the eye and said your business would always come first." "That's not fair," Marcus said. But even as the words left his mouth, he knew she was right. He had said those exact words during one of their worst fights. He had been so focused on building his empire that he had lost sight of everything else. "I tried to call you," Vanessa said softly, "after I found out about Zoe. I picked up the phone a dozen times. But every time I remembered what you said in court, that you never wanted children. The kids would just tie you down and slow your career. That you were relieved we never had any during our marriage." Marcus flinched. He had said that too. In anger, throwing words like weapons, trying to hurt her the way she had hurt him by leaving. But he had not meant it, had he? "So I decided to do it alone," Vanessa continued. "I moved back to North Carolina near my family. Got a job at a local farm. My sister helped me when Zoe was born. Then I got pregnant again with Caleb. It was hard, but we managed. My parents pitched in. The community supported us. And then Jordan," Marcus said. "And then Jordan." A small smile touched Vanessa's lips. He was a surprise. "I had just gotten Caleb sleeping through the night when I found out baby number 3 was on the way. I cried for 2 days straight." Marcus tried to imagine it. Vanessa alone, pregnant, caring for a baby and a toddler. while he was flying first class to business meetings and signing multi-million-dollar deals, while he was sleeping in luxury hotels and eating at the finest restaurants, while his ex-wife, the mother of his children, was struggling to make ends meet. I would have helped, he said. If I had known, I would have sent money support. I did not want your money, Vanessa said sharply. I wanted a father for my children. A man who would show up to birthday parties and school plays. Someone who would teach them to ride bikes and help with homework. Money can't replace that. So you kept them from me. For years? You let me live my life thinking I had no children when I had 3? Yes. Vanessa's voice did not waver. I did. Because you made it clear that children were not part of your plan. That your career was more important than family. I was not going to force fatherhood on someone who did not want it. I was not going to let my children feel like burdens to their own father. Marcus stood up, too agitated to sit still. He paced the small living room, his mind racing. They're 7, 6, and 5. I've missed 7 years. First steps, first words, first days of school, everything. No. You had no right to make that choice for me, and you had no right to break my heart and then act surprised when I protected myself and my babies from more pain. Vanessa stood too, facing him. They were close now, close enough that Marcus could smell her shampoo, vanilla, the same kind she had always used. What about child support? Marcus asked. You could have taken me to court. Forced me to pay even if I was not involved. Pride, I suppose. Vanessa shrugged. I did not want anything from you. I wanted to prove I could do it on my own. My parents helped when things got tight. I worked hard. We lived simply. The kids never went hungry. They had clothes and toys and love. Lots of love. But you struggled. Yes. Sometimes. Vanessa turned away, looking at the children's drawings on the wall. But we were happy. Are happy. The kids are healthy and smart and kind. They have a good life, without a father. That hung in the air between them, heavy and accusatory. Vanessa turned back to him. They ask about you sometimes. Zoe especially. She's old enough to notice that other kids have dads and she does not. I told them their father was a good man who lived far away and could not be with us. I never badmouthed you, Marcus. I never told them how you chose work over family. I wanted them to have a chance to know you someday without prejudice. Someday? Marcus laughed bitterly. You mean never. If I had not bought this farm by pure chance, if you had not gotten a job here by coincidence, I would have gone my whole life never knowing they existed. Vanessa did not deny it. Maybe, I do not know. As they got older, I thought about reaching out. Thought maybe you had changed. But then I would see your picture in magazines at fancy parties with beautiful women, living your best life. And I thought, why disrupt that? Why force myself and 3 kids into a life that clearly had no room for us? That's not fair, Marcus said again, weaker this time. Life is not fair. Vanessa's voice was tired. I learned that a long time ago. They stood in silence, the weight of 8 years pressing down on them. Outside birds sang. The creek burbled. The world kept turning, oblivious to the drama unfolding in this tiny blue cottage. What happens now? Marcus asked finally. Vanessa wrapped her arms around herself. I do not know. That's up to you, I suppose. Up to me. You're their father. Biologically, legally, every way that matters. If you want to be part of their lives, we'll figure something out. If you want to walk away and pretend you never saw us, I will not stop you. I will find another job, move somewhere else. You will never have to see us again. The offer should have been tempting, an easy out. Marcus could go back to his simple life, his business, his bachelor existence. Pretend this morning never happened. Let Vanessa take the children away and continue raising them alone. But even as he thought it, Marcus knew he could not do that. Those faces were burned into his memory now. Those 3 children who had his eyes, his smile, his blood running through their veins. His children. His son and daughter. His family. I want to meet them, he said. Properly, I mean. As their father. Vanessa studied him for a long moment. Are you sure? Kids are not a business deal, Marcus. You cannot negotiate them or schedule them into your calendar when convenient. They need consistency, commitment, love, I know that. Do you? Because 8 years ago you told me kids would ruin your life. That you had goals more important than family.
Have you changed that much, had he?
Marcus thought about his therapist's words. About the emptiness he felt despite all his success. About the long nights alone in his penthouse wondering what The point of it all was about buying this farm because he was searching for something his money could not buy. Maybe he had been searching for this. For them. For a family. "I want to try," he said. "That's all I can promise. I want to try to be their father." Vanessa nodded slowly. "Okay, but we do this my way. Slow. Careful. The kids' well-being comes first. If at any point I think you are hurting them or causing more harm than good, you are out. Understood?" "Understood." They get back from lessons in an hour. You can stay for dinner, meet them properly, see how it goes. Vanessa moved toward the kitchen. "But Marcus, do not make promises you cannot keep. These are children, not business partners. If you tell them you will be there, you better show up. If you say you will call, you better call. They have lived without a father this long. It would be better to have no father at all than one who disappoints them over and over." The warning was clear. Marcus nodded. "I understand. I will not let them down." As Vanessa began preparing dinner, Marcus sat back down on the couch. Through the window he could see the farm stretching out in the afternoon sun. His farm, the place he had bought searching for meaning, and somehow, impossibly, he had found his children here. The family he never knew he had, the second chance he never thought he would get. Now he just had to figure out how not to mess it up. Marcus helped Vanessa set the table, feeling awkward and out of place in the small kitchen. His hands, used to signing contracts worth millions, fumbled with simple plates and forks. Vanessa worked efficiently around him, pulling ingredients from the refrigerator, stirring pots on the stove. She was making spaghetti, she explained, the kids' favorite. "They're picky eaters?" Marcus asked, trying to make conversation. Trying to learn anything about these children who were strangers to him despite sharing his DNA. "Jordan will eat anything you put in front of him," Vanessa said, testing the pasta. "Caleb is pickier, no mushrooms, no peppers. Zoe is in a phase where she only wants white foods, pasta, bread, cheese, milk. It drives me crazy, but the pediatrician says it's normal." A pediatrician. Marcus realized he did not even know if his children had health insurance. Did Vanessa struggle to afford doctor visits? Had there been emergencies he knew nothing about? Surgeries? Broken bones? All the scary moments parents face, and he had been absent for every single one. "Do they get sick often?" he asked. "Jordan had pneumonia last winter. Scared me half to death." Vanessa's hand trembled slightly as she poured sauce over the pasta. "He was in the hospital for 4 days. My mom stayed with the other 2 while I slept in a chair next to his bed. He's fine now, completely recovered. But those were the longest 4 days of my life." Marcus felt something twist in his chest. His son, sick and frightened in a hospital, and he had not even known the child existed. "I'm sorry I wasn't there. You did not know." Vanessa's voice was neutral, neither forgiving nor accusing, just stating a fact. "Still, you should not have had to go through that alone." Before Vanessa could respond, they heard voices outside, children's voices, chattering and laughing. Marcus's heart started pounding. This was it. The moment he would meet his children as their father, not just a stranger in their barnyard. The door burst open and all 3 kids tumbled inside, talking over each other about their day. They stopped, short when they saw Marcus standing in their kitchen, a giant man in expensive clothes looking completely out of place next to their mother. "Kids," Vanessa said calmly. "This is Marcus Wellington. He's the owner of the farm. He's going to have dinner with us tonight." "Are you the boss man?" Jordan asked, tilting his head. "Mama said the new boss was really rich and lived far away." "I am," Marcus said, his voice catching. "But I'm visiting for a while." Zoe studied him with serious eyes. She was the oldest, Marcus reminded himself. 7 years old. She had Vanessa's careful, observant nature. "You're wearing fancy shoes. Those will get ruined on a farm." Marcus looked down at his Italian leather boots, now scuffed and stained with mud and chicken feed. "You're probably right. I can show you where to get better boots," Caleb offered. "Mama got ours at the feed store in town. They have steel toes, so if a cow steps on you, it does not hurt as much." Have you been stepped on by a cow? Marcus asked, genuinely curious. Once. It did not hurt much. Caleb said it like getting stepped on by livestock was just a normal part of life. Maybe in his world it was. Wash your hands, babies, Vanessa instructed. Dinner's ready. The children scrambled to the bathroom, arguing about who got to use the sink first. Marcus heard water running and more laughter. Normal sounds, family sounds, sounds his penthouse had never heard. They all sat down at the small table. It was cramped with 5 people, their elbows bumping. Marcus was used to long dining tables where you could barely hear the person at the other end. This was different, intimate, everyone close together, passing bowls, sharing space. Vanessa served the pasta while the children talked about their day. Mrs. Patterson had taught them about the solar system. Jordan was convinced he could be an astronaut when he grew up. Caleb wanted to be a veterinarian. Zoe was not sure yet. Maybe a teacher or a scientist or possibly a princess, depending on whether princesses were real jobs or not. Marcus listened, fascinated. These were his children, with dreams and opinions, and personalities completely formed without any input from him. Jordan was the chatty one, bouncing in his seat, constantly moving. Caleb was quieter, more thoughtful, carefully considering each word before speaking. Zoe watched everything, asking questions, analyzing the answers. Do you have kids? Jordan asked suddenly, looking at Marcus with innocent curiosity. The table went silent. Vanessa froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. Marcus felt 3 pairs of eyes on him, waiting for his answer. No, he said carefully. I don't. I haven't. I've been alone for a long time. That's sad, Jordan said matter-of-factly. Kids are fun. You should get some. Jordan, Vanessa said gently. That's not really how it works. Why not? You just make them, right? Like how Betsy the cow made a baby calf last month. Caleb rolled his eyes. That's not the same thing, dummy. Don't call your brother dummy, Vanessa corrected. Sorry, Caleb muttered. Marcus bit back a smile. This was what family dinners were like. Messy, chaotic, full of random questions and sibling squabbles. Nothing like the silent, formal dinners he occasionally had with business associates. What do you do for work? Zoe asked Marcus. Besides owning the farm. I run a technology company, Marcus explained. We make software that helps other businesses work better. What software? Jordan asked. Computer programs, apps on phones and tablets. Like games? Jordan's eyes lit up. Some software is games, yes, but we mostly make programs for adults to use at their jobs. That sounds boring, Jordan declared. Jordan, Vanessa warned. It's okay, Marcus said, laughing. It probably does sound boring to a 5-year-old. It's interesting to me, though. I like solving problems and building things. I like building things, too, Caleb said quietly. With Legos and blocks. Mama says I'm good at it. You are good at it, Vanessa confirmed. You built that amazing castle last week. Do you want to see it? Caleb asked Marcus. It's in our room. It has towers and a drawbridge and everything. I'd love to see it, Marcus said, meaning it. After dinner, the children dragged Marcus to their shared bedroom. It was small, but cheerful, with 3 beds crammed in and toys organized in every available space. Caleb's Lego castle dominated one corner, an impressive structure that showed real engineering skill for a 6-year-old. This is incredible, Marcus said, crouching down to examine it. How long did it take you to build? 3 days, Caleb said proudly. I did it all by myself. Mama helped with some of the hard parts. Zoe showed Marcus her collection of rocks, each one labeled with where she found it and what type it might be. Jordan demonstrated his ability to do a handstand, which ended with him falling over and nearly knocking into the dresser. Marcus felt something unfamiliar blooming in his chest. Warmth. Connection. Love, maybe, though it seemed too soon for that word. These were his children, his blood, his legacy in a way no business could ever be. Vanessa appeared in the doorway. Bath time, babies. Say goodnight to Mr. Wellington. Can he come back tomorrow? Jordan asked. I want to show him my frog. I found it by the creek. We'll see, Vanessa said. Now go brush your teeth. The children said their goodnights and scrambled off to the bathroom. Marcus stood in their room, surrounded by evidence of their lives. School papers on the wall, clothes in small sizes hanging in the closet, books stacked on shelves, well-loved and worn from reading. He followed Vanessa back to the living room. She stood by the fireplace, arms crossed, guarded. Well? She asked. They're amazing, Marcus said honestly. You've done an incredible job with them. Thank you. I want to see them again. Soon. Tomorrow, if possible. Vanessa chewed her lip, thinking, we need to tell them the truth, soon. They're going to start wondering why you keep coming around. And I will not lie to them. I have never lied to them about their father. Marcus nodded. What did you tell them about me? That their daddy was a good man who had important work to do far away. That he did not know about them because Mama never got a chance to tell him. That it was not his fault and not their fault. That sometimes life is just complicated. When do we tell them? Give it a few days. Let them get comfortable with you first. Then we'll sit down together and explain. Vanessa looked at him seriously. Are you ready for that? Once we tell them, there's no going back. You'll be their father in their minds and hearts. If you disappoint them after that, it will break them. I won't disappoint them, Marcus said. I promise. You already made promises you did not keep once, Vanessa said quietly. To me, when we got married, you promised to put our family first. To be there. To choose us. I know. I failed you. I failed us. Marcus ran his hand through his hair. But I was different then. Younger, more ambitious, obsessed with proving myself. I've spent 8 years building an empire, and you know what? It did not make me happy. Success did not fill the hole. Money did not fix the loneliness, so you think kids will. I think having a purpose beyond myself might. A reason to come home at night beyond an empty apartment. A legacy that matters more than stock prices and profit margins. Vanessa studied him for a long moment. Pretty words, Marcus. But kids need action, not words. They need someone who shows up. Who keeps promises. Who puts them first even when it's inconvenient. Then that's what I'll do. We'll see. Vanessa walked to the door, opening it. A clear dismissal. Come by tomorrow around 4. The kids finish their chores around then. You can spend time with them before dinner. Marcus wanted to argue, to stay longer, to not leave this tiny cottage that somehow felt more like home than anywhere he had lived in years. But he knew Vanessa was right. Slow and careful, one step at a time, he walked to the door, pausing next to her. This close, he could see the faint lines around her eyes, earned from years of hard work and harder choices. She was more beautiful now than when they married, he realized. Strength looked good on her. Thank you, he said, for tonight. For letting me meet them. They're your children too, Vanessa said. I'm not going to keep you from them. I'm just going to make sure you do not hurt them. Marcus walked back to the main farmhouse under a sky full of stars. The night air was cool and clean. Somewhere in the darkness an owl hooted. The farm was quiet, peaceful. But Marcus's mind was anything but peaceful. In one day, his entire life had changed. He had gone from a successful but lonely billionaire to a father of 3. From a man with no family to a man with ex-wife and children living on his property. He thought about his company, his meetings, his carefully planned schedule. All of it seemed less important now. He had assistants who could handle most things. Partners who could cover his responsibilities. For the first time in his career, Marcus considered stepping back. Not giving up his business, but maybe finding a better balance. Because tomorrow he would come back to that blue cottage, and the day after. And the day after that, he would learn his children's favorite colors and their bedtime routines. He would hear about their days and their dreams. He would figure out how to be a father even though he had no idea what he was doing. Marcus looked up at the stars. The same stars Vanessa had taught him to name during their marriage. Orion, Cassiopeia, the Big Dipper. She used to say the stars were always there, constant and reliable even when everything else changed. Maybe people could be constant too. Maybe he could learn to be someone his children counted on, someone who showed up. He had built a business empire from nothing. Surely he could learn to be a good father. He had to, because walking away was no longer an option. Not after seeing those 3 faces. Not after hearing Jordan's laugh and Caleb's quiet pride and Zoe's serious questions. They were his children, his responsibility, his second chance. And Marcus Wellington did not waste second chances. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur. Marcus showed up at the Blue Cottage every afternoon at 4 o'clock sharp, never late, never missing a day. At first the children were polite but distant, treating him like an interesting visitor. But gradually they warmed up to him. Jordan was the easiest. The 5-year-old had no filter and no suspicion. He chatted constantly, sharing every thought that crossed his mind. He showed Marcus his frog collection, which consisted of 3 frogs in a bucket. He demonstrated his soccer skills, which mostly involved kicking the ball in random directions and then chasing after it. He asked a million questions about everything from why the sky was blue to whether Marcus had ever seen a real dinosaur. Caleb took longer to open up. The 6-year-old was more cautious, watching Marcus carefully for weeks before deciding he was trustworthy. But once Caleb accepted him, he shared his world generously. He taught Marcus about the different animals on the farm, explaining which chickens laid the best eggs and which goats were friendly versus grumpy. He showed Marcus his rock collection and his bug collection, and his collection of interesting sticks. Everything in Caleb's world had order and meaning, and he patiently explained all of it. Zoe was the hardest nut to crack. At 7, she was old enough to be suspicious of this new man who suddenly appeared in their lives. She asked pointed questions. Why did Marcus visit so much? Did he have friends? Where was his family? Why wasn't he married? Her questions probed deeper than a 7-year-old should, and Marcus realized she was trying to figure out if he was safe, if he would stay, if he was worth trusting. During those 3 weeks, Marcus learned more than he had in years of business school. He learned that Zoe liked her sandwiches cut diagonally, never straight across. He learned that Caleb needed time alone after school to decompress before he could be social. He learned that Jordan had nightmares sometimes and needed someone to check under his bed for monsters before he could sleep. He learned that being a parent was not about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It was about showing up day after day. It was about listening when Jordan explained the complex rules of a game he had invented. It was about admiring Caleb's newest Lego creation, even though it looked exactly like the last 3. It was about helping Zoe with her math homework, even though she did not want help and insisted she could do it herself. Marcus also learned about Vanessa all over again. He watched her with the children and saw a version of her that had not existed during their marriage. She was patient but firm, loving but not indulgent. She let them make mistakes but caught them before they fell too hard. She was the center of their world, the sun they orbited, and Marcus felt a pang of something that might have been jealousy or might have been regret. One evening, after the kids were in bed, Vanessa and Marcus sat on the cottage porch drinking coffee. It had become their routine. After bath time and bedtime stories, they would sit in the darkness and talk, sometimes about the kids, sometimes about the farm, sometimes about nothing at all. "It's time to tell them," Vanessa said, breaking a comfortable silence. Marcus's coffee cup paused halfway to his lips. "Are you sure? Zoe asked me again today why you visit so much." "She's smart, Marcus. She's going to figure it out soon on her own. Better if it comes from us." Marcus set down his cup, his hands suddenly unsteady. "How do we do it?" "What do we say? We tell them the truth, simply, clearly. We answer their questions honestly." Vanessa looked at him. "Are you ready for their questions? Because they'll have a lot, and some of them might be hard to answer. Like why I was not there before? Like why you were not there before?" Marcus took a deep breath. In 3 weeks, he had fallen in love with 3 small people who did not know he was their father. The thought of them knowing, of finally having that relationship be real and acknowledged, terrified him and thrilled him at the same time. "I'm ready," he said. "When?" "Tomorrow. After dinner, we'll sit them down together and tell them." That night, Marcus barely slept. He lay in the big empty bed in the farmhouse, staring at the ceiling, practicing different ways to say the words. "Hi kids, surprise, I'm your dad." Too casual. "Children, I have something important to tell you." Too formal. The right words refused to come. The next day dragged. Marcus tried to work, taking calls from his assistant, reviewing reports his team sent. But he could not concentrate. Finally, at 4 o'clock, he walked to the cottage. His hands were sweating. His heart raced. He felt like he was about to give the most important presentation of his life. Dinner was spaghetti again. The kids chattered as usual, oblivious to the tension between the two adults. Jordan spilled his juice. Caleb carefully separated any bits of vegetables from his pasta. Zoe ate methodically, always finishing one thing completely before starting another. After the dishes were cleared, Vanessa looked at Marcus and nodded. It was time. "Kids, come sit in the living room," Vanessa said. "We need to talk to you about something." The children picked up on the serious tone immediately. Jordan's smile faded. Caleb looked worried. Zoe's eyes narrowed suspiciously. They all sat down, the children on the couch, Marcus and Vanessa in chairs facing them. Marcus felt like he was facing a jury. 3 small judges who would decide his fate. "Remember how I told you that your daddy was far away and didn't know about you?" Vanessa began gently. 3 heads nodded. "Well, something has changed. Your daddy isn't far away anymore. He's here." Confusion crossed their faces. Jordan looked around the room as if expecting someone else to appear. Caleb's brow furrowed. Zoe's eyes darted between her mother and Marcus, her quick mind working.
"Marcus is your father," Vanessa said simply.
"He's your daddy." The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. Marcus watched 3 different reactions play out on 3 different faces. Jordan's mouth fell open. "Really, the boss man is our daddy?" "Yes, baby. But you said our daddy was far away." Caleb said slowly, trying to understand. "He was far away. He lived in New York. He didn't know about you because Mama and Daddy got divorced before Mama knew she was going to have Zoe. I didn't know how to find him to tell him. But now he's here and he knows and he wants to be your daddy for real." Zoe stared at Marcus with those serious, evaluating eyes. "Is this true? You're our father?" "Yes," Marcus said, his voice rough with emotion. "I am. I didn't know about you before. Your mother and I lost touch after our divorce. But now I know. And I want more than anything to be part of your lives, to be your dad." "Did you not want us before?" Zoe asked, cutting right to the heart of the matter. "Is that why you didn't look for us?" "I didn't know you existed," Marcus said honestly. "Your mother and I separated before she knew she was pregnant. If I had known, I would have been here. I promise you that." "Promises don't mean much," Zoe said, and Marcus heard the echo of her mother's words. "You promised to stay with Mama when you got married, and you didn't." The observation was like a knife to the chest. 7 years old, and she already understood betrayal. "You're right," Marcus said. "I broke promises to your mother. I was wrong. I was selfish and focused on the wrong things. But I'm here now and I want to do better. I want to be the dad you deserve. Like, do we have to call you Dad?" Caleb asked quietly. "You can call me whatever you're comfortable with. Marcus is fine. Dad is fine. We'll figure it out together." Jordan, who had been processing silently, suddenly jumped off the couch and ran to Marcus. Before Marcus could react, the 5-year-old climbed into his lap and wrapped his arms around Marcus's neck. "I always wanted a daddy," Jordan said into Marcus's shoulder. "I asked Santa for one last Christmas, but he didn't bring one. I guess he was just late." Marcus's arms came around his youngest son, holding him close. His eyes burned with tears he refused to let fall. "I'm sorry I wasn't here before. I'm here now, though, and I'm not going anywhere." Caleb still sat on the couch thinking, "Will you teach me things?" That's what dads do in the movies. They teach their kids to ride bikes and throw balls and build stuff. "I'll teach you whatever you want to learn," Marcus promised. "Though I have to warn you, I've never actually taught anyone to ride a bike. We might have to figure that out together." "That's okay," Caleb said. "Figuring things out is fun." Only Zoe remained unmoved, watching the scene with guarded eyes. What if you leave again? What if you decide being a dad is too hard or too boring and you go back to your fancy life in New York? It was the question Marcus had been dreading, because it was the same question he had asked himself late at night. What happened when the novelty wore off? When being a parent got hard? When his kids were annoying or difficult or needed things he didn't know how to give? "I won't lie to you," Marcus said, looking directly at Zoe. "I don't know how to be a dad yet. I'm going to make mistakes. There will be days when I mess up. But I promise you this, I will never stop trying. I will show up every single day. I will choose you over work and money and everything else. Because you 3 are more important than any business deal or any amount of success." "Those are just words," Zoe said. "You're right. So watch what I do. Judge me by my actions, not my words. Give me a chance to prove I mean what I say." Zoe considered this for a long moment. Then she stood up and walked over to Marcus, still holding Jordan. She did not hug him or climb into his lap. She just stood in front of him, studying his face. "You look like us," she said finally. "I have your nose. Caleb has your eyes. Jordan has your smile." "You do," Marcus confirmed. "You're all mine." "My daughter and my sons." "Okay," Zoe said. "I'll give you a chance. But if you break your promises, I'll be very upset." "That's fair." Zoe returned to the couch, sitting next to Caleb. The two older children exchanged a look, some silent sibling communication that Marcus could not interpret. Then Caleb nodded. "We can be a family," Caleb announced. "It'll be weird at first, but we can try." Vanessa had been silent through all of this, letting the children process in their own way. Now she spoke up. "This doesn't mean Marcus is moving in or anything like that. He has his house, we have ours. But he'll be around a lot more. And you can call him whenever you want. He gave me his phone number for you." "Can we call at any time?" Jordan asked, still nestled in Marcus's arms. "Any time at all," Marcus confirmed. "Day or night. If you need me, I'll answer." "What if it's 3 a.m?" Zoe challenged. "Then I'll answer at 3 a.m. "What if you're in an important meeting?" "I'll step out and call you back immediately." "What if you're on an airplane?" "I'll call you the second I land." Zoe nodded, satisfied for now. "Okay." The rest of the evening passed in a strange new atmosphere. The children asked questions. Lots of questions. Where did Marcus live? What was New York like? Did he have a dog? Why not? Could they get a dog? Did he know how to swim? Could he help them build a treehouse? Would he come to Jordan's birthday party next month? Marcus answered every question honestly. Yes, he would come to the birthday party. No, he did not know how to build a treehouse, but he would learn. Yes, they could maybe discuss getting a dog at some point. When bedtime came, Jordan insisted that Marcus read him a story. Marcus sat on the edge of the small bed, Jordan tucked under one arm, reading about a caterpillar who ate too much. His son's breathing gradually slowed as sleep claimed him. Marcus looked down at the sleeping child, at the face that was so much like his own, and felt his heart crack open. This tiny person trusted him, believed in him, loved him without reservation despite only knowing him for 3 weeks. He could not let him down. He could not let any of them down. Caleb wanted Marcus to check his room for monsters before bed. Marcus dutifully looked under the bed and the closet behind the curtains, declaring each space monster-free. Caleb watched with serious eyes, then nodded his approval. "Thanks, Dad," Caleb said, testing out the word. Marcus's throat tightened. "Anytime, son." Zoe wanted to talk. She patted the space next to her on her bed and Marcus sat down carefully. "I'm going to test you," she informed him. "I'm going to see if you keep your promises. Don't be mad when I do." "I won't be mad. You should test me. Make sure I'm trustworthy." "Good." Zoe pulled her covers up to her chin. "I hope you pass." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." Marcus and Vanessa stood in the hallway between the 3 beds, watching their children sleep. Marcus felt Vanessa's hand slip into his. Not romantic, just a moment of shared understanding. They had created these 3 amazing people. Despite everything that went wrong between them, they had made something beautiful together. "You did good tonight," Vanessa whispered. "With them. They're incredible. You raised them right. We're raising them now. Together." Vanessa squeezed his hand once, then let go. "Come on, we should let them sleep." They walked back to the living room. Marcus knew he should leave, go back to the farmhouse, let Vanessa have her evening. But he did not want to leave this cottage, this family, this feeling of belonging. "Stay for a while," Vanessa said, as if reading his mind. "Have some coffee. We should talk about how this is going to work going forward." So Marcus stayed, and they talked late into the night about schedules and boundaries, and how to co-parent children they were both still learning to know. It was not perfect. It was complicated and messy and full of uncertainty. But for the first time in 8 years, Marcus felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. 6 months changed everything. Marcus had thought building a billion-dollar company was hard, but it had nothing on learning to be a father. Business had rules and logic. Parenting was chaos wrapped in love, wrapped in exhaustion. He moved out of the farmhouse and rented a place in town, a modest 3-bedroom house with a backyard. Nothing fancy, not like his Manhattan penthouse, but it had space for the kids to play, and a kitchen where he learned to make pancakes that were only slightly burned. Every Wednesday and every other weekend, the children stayed with him. The rest of the time, he still showed up at the cottage most evenings. His business partners thought he had lost his mind. Marcus Wellington, who once worked 70-hour weeks, now left meetings early to attend school plays. The man who never missed a board presentation now sometimes called in via video because he had promised to help with a science project. His assistant had to completely restructure his calendar around soccer practices and parent-teacher conferences. But Marcus discovered something surprising. His company did not fall apart. In fact, with better work-life balance, he made smarter decisions. He delegated more. He trusted his team, and the business thrived without him micromanaging every detail. Jordan's 6th birthday party was the first major test. Vanessa's entire family came to the farm. Parents, siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles. Marcus met them all, enduring suspicious looks and pointed questions. Vanessa's father, a stern man who had worked a farm his whole life, pulled Marcus aside.